In Starfield, we can find landmarks on Earth that house snow globes, but there are two that seem to go against what we know about how to find them and can be easily missed by players. The first of which can be found around Cydonia. Inside the city, we can find an info plaque about the face on Mars. Well, this location is actually featured in the game and can be found just outside of Cydonia. From above, we can see the resemblance to a human face, but if we focus our attention on the area of the nose that would meet the right eye, using our scanner, we can see a snow globe here that seems to be missing the standard quest that comes with it. The Cydonia snow globe features a miniature face on Mars and counts for the snow globe counter in our stats. The next hidden trinket is a little more challenging to find, and it will take us to Italy on Earth. While I have seen people online say that you can land in the Piedmont region of the country and trigger this location in-game, I personally haven't had much luck with that. I was, however, able to use console commands to travel to the Leaning Tower of Pisa, well, what remains of it anyways. Of course, we can find a snow globe here that features the landmark in its former glory. This also counts in our collection stats. These globes were either cut from the game or not implemented correctly. Judging by the fact that we can still get the Cydonia globe naturally in-game, I would think that perhaps a quest is supposed to trigger when we are reading the plaque about the face on Mars. As for the Pisa landmark, your guess is as good as mine. Perhaps it was cut from the game, or maybe even the book that would typically kick off the quest was cut or not correctly added. Whatever the case, these snow globes make a great addition to our collection. In New Atlantis, we can find Infinity Ltd. A side quest from Ryujin will lead the spacefarer here and give us access to the building. Inside, we see for the most part a pretty standard corporate HQ. However, if you look around a bit, you can find a nice homage to a beloved television show. Inside this office, in one of the cubicles, we can find this pot and a blue oven mitt lying on the floor. This is a reference to the American version of the show The Office, where Kevin spills his chili on the floor using the same items we find in Starfield. On Charybdis 3, we can find a place called the Facility with a functioning cloning lab inside. When exploring the facility, we can come across pods that have housed various clones. One of these pods holds quite the secret and may even give some background on a fan-favorite character from a past Bethesda game. Next to a broken clone pod, we can find this note that reads, Subject, Gary 23, Expiration, 2277, Transferred to V108. With the word transferred being misspelled. While the incorrect spelling likely has nothing to do with the Easter egg and is probably just an honest mistake, the rest of the note is one huge reference to Fallout 3. Not only does Fallout 3 take place in the year 2077, but the V108 is clearly referring to Vault 108, which is where we can find clones in the Capital Wasteland, all named Gary. Gary 23 is an interesting choice, as this Gary can be found dead with the Brotherhood outcasts in a room next to their simulation pod. The outcasts tried to use this Gary's Pip-Boy to open a locked armory. This is a deep reference and could perhaps add new canon lore to the Gary clones, though it's likely just a fun Easter egg that shows some love for Fallout 3. Speaking of Fallout, we can find a group of people many players seem to relate to Vault Tech when they meet them. Orbiting Parima 2, home of Paradiso, we can find the Earth colony ship Constant. This group descended from the first humans to leave Earth for a faraway habitable planet, and they did so before the invention of the grav drive. Inside their hydroponics area, we can find quite a familiar plant from another Bethesda series, the Elder Scrolls. These little green guys are Nirnroot, and they made an appearance in the Fallout series as well. This isn't the only place we see them either. Traveling to Alpha Andraste 3, we can find small purple plants growing from the dirt. These are also Nirnroot, though I don't recall ever seeing a purple variation before. Speaking of the Elder Scrolls, we can find many more references to the games in Starfield. In Hope Town, we can visit shops and people who call the area home. One of the shops is a bit familiar though. Best Defense shares its name with a shop in Cyrodiil from the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. It could be a coincidence, there are only so many shops in the universe, some are bound to have the same name, but it seems to me this was a nod to Oblivion. It doesn't stop there with the Elder Scrolls Easter eggs. If we open up our skill menu and go to the crippling skill tree, we can see it features a knee as its badge. Looking at each rank of this perk, we can witness an arrow make its way into the picture and puncture the knee, which is a callback to this famous line from Skyrim that became somewhat of a viral meme.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
Bethesda didn't forget about this line for Starfield either, as if we meet some colonists, there is a chance they will say this obvious reference to the famous dialogue.
I used to be an explorer too, but then I No, never mind. It's a long story.
During the Crimson Fleet questline, we will come to a place called the Lock, a giant prison on a frozen planet. Inside, we can reach this guard tower and search the computer for prisoner records. One member of the roster is named Delvin Mallory. This is the name of a high-ranking member of the Thieves Guild in Skyrim and acts as an incredible Easter egg, calling back to one of Bethesda's most popular games. In New Atlantis, we can meet Johann Baptiste. He spends most of his days at the distribution center here in town, and Bethesda made sure to give him a line that refers to another game that has an abundance of similar-looking distribution centers. Sometimes, when exiting a conversation, Johann will say,
"Keep on keeping on."
This is a direct reference to some of the motivational posts that we can find around the game world of Death Stranding that use the same line.
Beginning scan. Have a pleasant journey. Keep on keeping on.
The cleaning robots that we find around the game world of Starfield are not just there for decoration. If we drop certain junk items on the ground, these little guys will eagerly pick them up, and we can even get our things back by dispatching them. The robots seem to like one item at a time. They will largely ignore a big group of multiple things dropped by the player. However, it's still a very neat small detail that Bethesda added to this already expansive game. Starfield is filled with clothing options for the spacefarer. That being said, there are still some sets of clothes that are a bit more rare than others. Back on the ECS Constant, we meet the captain. She has on some purple affair, but if you like the way it looks, you can take one for yourself. If we sneak into the captain's quarters, we can find this outfit lying on the bed, and it personally gives me a heavy Star Trek vibe. On the Moon Titan, we can meet Dr. Lakota. She is tired of tourists, and her idea is to wear a tardigrade monster costume and scare away the non-native people so she isn't overloaded at work. This gives us the monster costume and tasks us with scaring away the tourist. After doing this quest 3 times, Lakota will reward the spacefarer with this ensemble. What it lacks in defense numbers, it makes up for in style. Lastly, in the resort town of Paradiso, we can see almost everyone wearing swimsuits on the beach, but no one can find any real way to get these legally for ourselves. Well, some can be stolen from the lockers around the resort, and this is really the only place that we can find these revealing outfits. In Starfield, we can visit 120 star systems. Each holds planets and moons of various sizes. One of the star systems may sound familiar to fans of the Halo series. The Iridani system is home to Iridani 2. This is the same planet we find in Halo Reach, Epsilon Iridani 2. In the Halo universe, we see a populated, lush, Earth-like planet with different biomes making a beautiful landscape. In Starfield, we can find much of the same. This is a real star system, which could be why it's included, but it's hard to not see it as a tremendous reference to such a great game series. Iridani 2 in Starfield is a beautiful place to set up camp and explore. If you're a Halo fan, it just sweetens the pot. When starting a new game in Starfield, you may be eager to jump right in and take to the stars to explore. However, if you look around the entrance to New Atlantis, you can find a person who will be quite important to the main story. We can meet the hunter at the viewport and speak with him, and he will have this to say.
Not used to people coming up to me. The suit usually scares them off. Although I guess that's my fault, isn't it? I guess you could say I've always had it. Once you've been all over, like I have, you might find yourself in something like this too. Well, I go all over. A little psychological warfare up front tends to make things easier. Retired, actually. From too many lives to count. But I've been all those things, yeah? And a few more. I spend a lot of time in the fringes these days. God help you if you come across something someone wants. You'd think it was things like civilizations and factions that cause people to want to shoot each other. No, even without that, it's still winner take all. You're on to me. Of course. That's what makes the reality so tragic. Wait a second. I think I'm in danger of having a real conversation with someone for a change. Better stop here. I'm sure we'll see each other again.
This isn't the only place we can run into the hunter early. If we head to Aquila and look over to the hitching post, our old friend can be found here as well.
Well, look who it is. How are the settled systems treating you? Make any enemies yet? Waiting. I do a lot of that these days, but the shortest path to a goal sometimes requires patience. Choosing to act is what puts you in conflict with others. It's not about how pure the intentions are. Once you start making a real impact on the universe, there's always more and more people who end up on the losing side of your decisions. Someone always gets hurt. Now you sound like one of the factions. I'm sure both the United Colonies and the Free Star Collective think they're making things better, but that didn't stop them from going to war. I guess that's just the nature of things, isn't it? People start by thinking they're doing the right thing, and then your version of what's right collides with someone else's. But it doesn't last. See, that's my point. Even if everyone is benefiting, some people are benefiting more than others. And then eventually someone thinks it's time to rebalance the scales. Better to just let people be. A single person achieving their own ends is at least honest. Helping people is just another form of control. Ah, there I go again. I was in danger of waxing philosophical last time, and now I'm knee-deep in it. I should stop while I'm ahead. I'll catch you around.
So far, these are the only two places I've been able to find the hunter early like this, so if you've seen them around anywhere else, make sure to hit the comments and let me know.